Yeah. So let's get started. In last class, if you remember, we have looked at the intermodulation, and intermodulation, as we saw, is basically when you have a amplifier which is a little nonlinear, right? And you send in two tones, F1 and F2. What you get at the output is basically you'll get F1 and F2 amplified, but also due to the nonlinearity you'll get a two tones additionally. One is at 2f1 minus f2 and another is at 2f2 minus f1, because you will also get the higher order terms, which we assume that by proper design of the bandpass filter you will be able to get rid of all those harmonic terms. Okay, sometimes it may not be possible, then you'll have to take care of them as well. All right. So now we also define what is called as, these are what are called as the intermodulation terms or IM tones. Let's call it as IM tones. And towards the end of last class, I also showed you, if you take the x-axis to be, let's say, 20 log of A in, and on the y-axis, let's say you're plotting 20 log of A out. In A out, you're plotting the F, which is the fundamental component, and you're also plotting 20 log of the IM components. We saw that the fundamental component is going to go like this with a slope of 1, right? And the height here will basically, at 0 dBm power, what you get as the y-axis intercept is basically going to be your gain, right? And the slope is going to be 1. And of course, after a point of time, it starts deviating and then saturating. Okay. Now, the intermodulation term, we saw that it is going to go up as a cube, and therefore it has, in the log scale, it is going to have a slope of 3, right? So it is going to be something like this. Okay. Right. So this is going to have a slope of 3, and then we know that if you keep measuring it, it will start, kind of saturating here, right? So your 1 dB compression point is basically going to be somewhere here. Let's say this is your P1 dB, okay, and let's say this is how your okay, right? This is your IM component. Okay. Now, if you look at the difference between the two, let's say that is called as relative IM. We saw that it is going to look something like this: 20 log of 3 by 4 alpha 3 by alpha 1 A squared, or A in squared, right? Now, this is in terms of, this is relative IM, which is basically the IM component divided by the fundamental component. Always in especially these RF systems, usually we represent that as dBc. Okay, dBc. What is dBc? Because we have rationalized it to the main fundamental tone, or in general, the actual thing is, it is with respect to the carrier. Okay, carrier being your fundamental tone. Okay, so because we have rationalized it to that, it is called as dBc. Okay. Now, this dBc number is going to go up with a slope of, or rather, it is going to reduce at a slope of 2 in a log scale. Okay, this is what we saw in last class. Now, another thing is, we saw that as these IM components are going to be there even when you are away from the 1 dB compression point. Okay, let's say if you take a point which is here, right? So here, this place is quite away from the 1 dB compression point, but still you have some IM components. Okay. Now, the level to which these IM components are going to be depends on the nonlinearity and so on. Okay. Now, let us say you have 2-3 amplifiers, and you are trying to compare the linearity of all these different amplifiers. Now, how can you compare them? You can look at the relative IM or so on, but this relative IM is extremely dependent on what? The input amplitude. Okay, let's say one vendor has characterized it at 0 dBm, another vendor has characterized it at minus 10 dBm and said that my relative IM is extremely good. Okay, one more company might say I will do it even at minus 20 dBm and show that my relative IM is extremely good. Okay, so unless you are able to normalize all these things in a certain way, you are really not going to be able to make a correct judgment as to which amplifier is more linear or not, right? So you need a parameter which is going to be very clear, that is going to be standardized across all different vendors, and that is going to give you a notion of its linearity. Okay, so that is what is called as the third order intercept point. Okay, it's called as the third order intercept point. So listen carefully, let me tell this. Let me explain what it actually means. So the concept is like this. If you take this fundamental tone and keep extrapolating it, okay, we know that the fundamental tone, the gain of the amplitude of the fundamental tone is starting to go and saturate. But suppose you interpolate that, okay, interpolate the linear region, and also you interpolate this IM tone. So we know that once the amplitude of the fundamental itself is going to saturate, obviously even the IM components will start saturating, something like this. Okay, heavily saturating. Okay. Now, if you take the linear region of both of these curves and you extrapolate them so that they meet at a certain point, okay, that point is what is called as the third order intercept point. And it is written as IP3. Okay, so if it is input referred, it is called as IIP3, that is input referred third order intercept point. Okay, same way, if you see the value where this intercept point is going to be at the output side, it is called as OIP3. Okay, so basically that is output referred IP3 point. Okay, now please understand, this IP3 point cannot be directly measured or even simulated. Of course, there are tools which will simulate and give you, but then just by running, getting these two curves directly, you do not get it. Okay, you take the linear region of the amplifier, that is when it is quite away from the 1 dB compression point. Okay, you trace the fundamental curve and you also trace the IM3 curve, and then you extrapolate them so that they meet at a certain point, and that is your IP3 point. And also obviously by looking at the graph that I have drawn, you can say that this IP3 point can never be reached practically, right? Even if you overdrive your amplifier as much as you want, still the output amplitude will not reach the OIP3 level point, okay, or for that matter even the IM3 points, because before that itself it will saturate. Okay, this is a metric by which we characterize amplifiers, and this is a very standard metric. Okay, if you take any RF amplifier data sheet or any paper, power amplifier or LNA or whatever it is, you will basically see these numbers. Okay, the output referred IP3 point or the input referred IP3 point. Typically for LNAs, IIP3 is more commonly used. For PAs, obviously the OIP3 point is more commonly referred to and used for calculations. Okay, but this IP3 point is a very, very important parameter. And so now can you tell me, if let's say you have two amplifiers, okay, let's say you have amplifier 1 and amplifier 2, and the IIP3 point of amplifier 1 is greater than IIP3 point of amplifier 2. Okay, now which of the two amplifiers is going to be more linear?
A1.
A1, correct? Because the point at which this is going to meet for amplifier 1 Okay, let me just draw it here. Let's say the red curve is for this one. This is, let's say, A1, and let's say this other curve, I'm just shifting it here. Okay, it is basically going to meet somewhere here. Okay, now what happens is, this is, let's say this is A2. If you were to operate this amplifier at, let's say, some power level here, okay, you will basically see that the relative IM is much higher, or rather you have more, the carrier to the IM suppression is more for AM than for A1 than for A2. Okay, so typically the higher the IP3 number, the more linear your amplifier is, or for that matter, even OIP3 also works out to be the same. Okay, so this is how we compare two different amplifiers which might have different gains, different, whatever it is. By comparing the IIP3 numbers or the OIP3 numbers, we'll be able to compare and say which amplifier is better. And when you design an amplifier, you do a two-tone test. You give two tones which are separated by a very small frequency with the same amplitude, and you scale the amplitudes, and you run the simulation. You basically trace this curve, right? In simulation, what you will do is you will give these two tones, and you'll run multiple simulations, right, with increasing input amplitudes. As the input amplitude increases, you will trace both the black and the purple curves, or whatever that color is. So, and then you will extrapolate the linear region and find the IIP3 and OIP3 points. But thankfully, most of the simulators that we use today, if you run a sufficiently large I mean, there are settings and there are tools which will directly run these simulations and compute the IP3 points and give you. Okay, you don't have to sit and draw a line and extrapolate them. The software will do for you, whether you are using ADS or AWR or even Cadence. Okay, all right. Now let us try to look at these components. So if you use the linearized model, the IIP3 at AN equal to, let's say, AIIP3, okay, what happens is alpha 1 times AIIP3, that is the linearized curve, the extrapolated curve, is supposed to be equal to 3 by 4 alpha 3 AIIP3, the whole cube, right? So that is the IM curve, right? You don't talk about the compression. If you take only, you extrapolate them, this is mathematically what you will basically get. Now what you can do, you can basically just rearrange numbers and, okay. You can rearrange numbers and you can say that AIIP3 is nothing but 4 by 3 alpha 1 by alpha 3 modulus. Okay. This is basically your AIP3 number. So you can see that as alpha 3 goes down, you will have a better AIP3 or more linear performance. That is obvious from even our first cut equation. As your alpha 2 alpha 3 go down, your harmonic distortions, all the other non-linearities go down. Now if you recall, even for 1 dB compression point, we had some similar equation. Okay, only the coefficients were different, right? So you can go back, look at that equation, and you can say AIIP3 divided by A1 dB, okay, will be given by, in fact, the coefficient for that is some 0.145 or something like that. Okay, and you will see that it becomes 4 divided by 0.435, which is approximately equal to, if you take the 20 log, it goes to 9.6 dB. Okay, in other words, you can say that AIIP3 in dB, you can make this calculation. You look at the equation for A1 1 dB compression point. I think it is root of 0.145. A1 dB is root of 0.145, same alpha 1 by alpha 3. Okay, Here you have 4 by 3 alpha 1 by alpha 3. Okay, so you can compute it in dB terms. It becomes A1 dB plus 9.6 dB. In other words, this is again a rule of thumb type equation, right? If you know that your 1 dB compression point of your amplifier is, let's say, 10 dBm, your IP3 point will be 20 dBm, roughly. Okay, IP3 point and 1 dB compression point are separated by approximately 10 dB, and AIP3 is 10 dB, roughly 10 dB higher than your 1 dB compression point. So unless you do some other circuit techniques to improve your linearity and all that, if you take a normal amplifier and you test it, you will see that the IP3 point and 1 dB compression point, both input referred and output referred, will be roughly related by 10 dB. Okay. All right. So now the other thing is, if let's say you are looking at, if let's say you are measuring an amplifier, okay, in lab. Okay, you got an amplifier, you have a signal generator and a spectrum analyzer, or these measurements can also be done using a network analyzer. Okay, vector network analyzer will be able to do that. Now you want to quickly estimate, okay, let's say you have got the data sheet, let's say you got the data sheet and you know what is your AIIP3 number, okay, and you also know the gain and other things. Okay, now if you want to quickly estimate how much will be your IM component at any given power, you don't have to go and look at the graph and directly do. There's a shortcut method to kind of estimate these things. Okay, so that is by looking at this particular curve that we did. Let's just take another look at this curve. Okay, so this is again a log curve. It is 20 log of AN, and let's say this is 20 log of AF, and also 20 log of IM. Okay, so we know that the fundamental is basically going to go down as with a slope of 1 dB, and this is the extrapolated thing, right? And this is going to go down as a slope of 3. I mean, sorry, the slope is 1 and slope is 3. Okay, not dB, it's just slope is 1 and slope is 3. Okay, this is IM3 and this is the fundamental. Now, if you take some arbitrary point, okay, let's say you take some arbitrary point, okay, here the difference between your fundamental tone and your IM3, let's say, is delta P. Got it? The relative IM, let's call it as delta P. Now, if you want to know, if you already know your IIP3, okay, my thing may not be actually to scale. Okay, I should redraw this a little more carefully. Okay, let me just do it once again. Otherwise, graphically, what I'm drawing may seem extremely bad. Okay, so let's say this is your IM3. Now, if you take any point, let's take this particular point, which is fairly on the linear side, let's say, okay, and let's say this is your IIP3. Okay, now if this is your delta P, right, and this is your AIIP3, what has happened is, if you have come down by a factor, let's say you have decreased your let me just put it like this. Let's say if this is a delta X, okay, you have come down from the AIP3 by some delta X, right? Then the fundamental output also would have come down by same delta X, because the slope is 1. Whereas the IM3 component would have come down by what? 3 times delta x, correct? Because the slope is 3. Now the difference between these two will be 2 times delta x. Okay, so in other words, if you say that this is delta p, this will be what? Delta p by 2. Is this clear? It's a very simple thing. From AIP3, if your A in is some delta x away, for example, if your AIP3 is 20 dBm, and let's say your input amplitude is 0 dBm, right? Your output amplitude fundamental also would have come down by a factor of 20 dB, right? The same amount. But then your IM3 component would have come down by 60 dB, and the relative IM would have come to 40 dB. That is what we are saying. So now if you write whatever we just analyzed graphically here, that is 20 log of AIP3, 20 log of A fundamental minus 20 log of AIM, which is equal to delta P, right, which I have denoted here. It's nothing but 2 times your 20 log of AIP3 minus 20 log of AIN, correct? This is exactly what we have told. So just rewriting this equation, you can say that 20 log of AIP3 is equal to delta P by 2 plus 20 log of AIN1. So if you know any two parameters in this equation, you can find the other parameter. It's a very shortcut way to find it out, and many times it becomes very useful. Let's say you know the IIP3 number from the data sheet, and you also know the input power at which you are giving, or the input amplitude. Directly you will know what is the relative IM by using this equation. Okay, or if you are measuring it and you found out delta P and you know the input power, it is very easy for you to estimate IIP3. So this equation which I have written here, it's a very useful equation where, you know, just by knowing how far away you are from this equation basically relates your IIP3 number, your relative IM, and your input power. Okay, many times what happens is you will know the IIP3 number, you know at what input power you are giving, you want to find out what is the relative IM. Directly you can find out using this equation. Okay, all right. So now with this I will kind of conclude the discussion on this. Any doubts so far? Any questions? Okay, so maybe if you have some haziness in your understanding, just go through the textbook once again. I am taking this from chapter 2 of Razavi's RF microelectronics. I think it will be very clear. Okay, now we will move to another related topic only, not very different. What happens when you cascade two amplifiers? Okay, cascaded nonlinear stages. Okay, basically if you have one amplifier and then you have one more amplifier, let's say this is A1 and A2. Okay, it can be, let's say, a driver amplifier and a power amplifier. It can be a LNA and a mixer. Okay, it can be, or two stages of LNA, or any two amplifiers or any two active devices, because we will always encounter these things. All right, so what happens here is, let me just first give you the mathematical basis. Okay, let's say this is x of t, this is y1 of t, and this is y2 of t. Okay, y1 of t is very easy. This is what we have already written: alpha 1 x of t plus alpha 2 x squared of t plus alpha 3 x cube of t. Okay, and so on. Now y2 of t can also be written as what? Let's use another alphabet, which is beta. Let's say beta 1 times y1 of t plus beta 2 times y2 of t plus beta 3 times y3 of t, sorry, y cube, y squared, and so on. Okay, this is very straightforward. Okay, so here y2 can be written as what? You can just rewrite it by expanding this: alpha 1 x of t plus alpha 2 x squared of t plus alpha 3 x cube of t, right, plus beta 2 times alpha 1 x of t plus alpha 2 x squared of t plus alpha 3 x cube of t, the whole power 2, plus beta 3 times alpha 1 x1 of t alpha 2 x squared t plus alpha 3 x cube t, the whole thing power 3. Okay. Now you might say that the expressions have become a little more complicated. So don't worry, we are not going to overtly solve all these things. Okay, you can kind of look at the terms now that we have some understanding, right? So if you look at it, you can directly write the IIP3 equation, right? So what are the IM tones? Where all do you get the IM tones here? The IM generated by alpha 3 will be multiplied by beta 1, right? And you will also have, so let me just explain first and then we can have a better understanding. Okay, so let me just explain this. This is A1, A2. Okay, so the spectrum here is just two tones, and the spectrum here is going to be what? F1, F2, 2F1 minus F2 and 2F2 minus 2F1, right? This is the spectrum at Y1 of t. Let's say this is beta, this is alpha, right? Now what will happen at the output of the second amplifier? That is the question. Okay, I hope it's very clear. Okay, now first of all, if you look at the fundamental tones, what will happen? Fundamental tones will have a gain of how much?
Product of the two gains.
Correct. So this will be
Alpha
alpha
into
1
beta.
into beta 1, right? Both the tones are multiplied, both the tones have, this is the one. Okay. How do I, okay. Alpha 1 into beta 1. Okay. Now, what happens, first of all, let's say these two tones, right? 2F1 minus F2, 2F2 minus F1. Now, first of all, these tones will get multiplied by beta 1, just amplified, and you'll get beta 1 times, right? 3 alpha 3 by 4 alpha 3 a cube. Okay, this will be the coefficient of these things. Same way you will have beta 1 times 3 alpha 3 by, yeah, so basically this will be the coefficient for your IM tone, right? Now F1 and F2 will go through the beta 3 nonlinearity, right? The second amplifier itself will have its nonlinearity due to beta 3. So this will give rise to 2F1 minus F2, 2F2 minus F1, the same thing that we saw last time. So that will be what? You'll of course have alpha 1, 3 by 4, alpha 1, beta 3, a cube, right? Sorry, it will be, 1 second, 3 by 4 beta 3 into alpha 1 into a, the whole cube, correct? This will basically be the tones which generate, 2F1 minus F2 and 2F2 minus F1 purely by the second amplifier. Okay. Now, in addition to it, there is also, if the band pass filter is not very good, right, then what will happen is you will get, you will have the F1 minus F2 terms and the 2F1 term and 2F2 terms. All these were generated, right, due to the second order nonlinearity, right? Now that will get mixed because of beta 3, okay, and you will get basically here, if you mix 2F1 minus F2 into 2F1, what will you get? You will get the sum and difference. This will also give you 2F1 minus F2 and 2F2 minus F1, right? So what will be the coefficient of these terms? So here you will basically have 2 times beta 2 alpha 1. Okay, sorry, the resulting terms will be 3 times alpha 1 alpha 2 beta 2 a cube by 2. Okay, the here you have alpha 1 because that is alpha 1, the amplified terms are coming here. Alpha 2 is generating f1 minus f2, 2f1 and 2f2, and beta 2, sorry, this is not the effect of beta 3, it is the effect of beta 2. Beta 2 is now doing what? Mixing of these two terms and then resulting in this thing. Okay, so now your IM terms, the coefficient of the IM terms is now going to be the sum of all these things. What are these things? It is 3 times alpha 3 beta 1 by 4, which we had first, plus 3 times alpha 1 cube beta 3 divided by 4, the second one, plus 3 times alpha 1 alpha 2 beta 2 divided by 2, the whole thing into, a cube. All right. Now this is the IM terms, right? So now relative IM or AIIP3 can be written as what? AIIP3. Now this is a shortcut way of writing. You can also expand this, huge equation and then try to figure out which is coming out how and so on, right? And basically you will get AIIP3 of the overall thing total can be written as what? 4 by 3, the linear coefficient divided by the alpha 3 coefficient, right? So the linear coefficients are alpha 1 beta 1 and the non-linear coefficients are what? Basically you have 3 alpha 3 beta 1. Okay, the 3 has been taken out. Alpha 3 beta 1 plus 2 alpha 1 alpha 2 beta 2 plus alpha 1 cube beta
1 cube
3.
beta 3.
Okay, so this is the AIP3 total. The way I have got this equation is just I use the same equation for a single stage string, which is root of 4 by 3 alpha 1 by alpha 3. So here I use the coefficient for the fundamental term and the coefficient for the IM term. That's all. Okay. So now we are interested in, if you have two cascaded stages, what is the overall IIP3? Okay. So it is easy for us to analyze if we just square it and invert it. So 1 by AIIP3 squared is basically the root goes off, it becomes 3 by 4, and then you have alpha 3 beta 1 plus 2 alpha 1 alpha 2 beta 2 plus alpha 1 cube beta 3, the whole thing divided by alpha 1 beta 1. Now we can kind of split this up and then say 3 by 4. This becomes alpha 3 by alpha 1 first term. Second term, what happens? It becomes 2 times correct, 2 alpha 2 beta, okay, beta alpha 1 cancels out, 2 alpha 2 beta 2 by beta 1 plus alpha 1 squared, right, beta 3 by beta 3 by beta 1, correct. Now can you look at the first term and think of something? Does it represent something? Look at this IP3 equation. Okay, so 3 by 4 alpha 3 by alpha 1 can be written as, this can be written as what? 1 by AIP3 1 squared, correct? Because AIP3 is root of 4 by 3 alpha 1 by alpha 3. Here you are having the whole inverted without the square root. So this is nothing but 1 by this thing, right? And the same way, if you look at this third term, what can you say? This is nothing but alpha 1 squared divided by AIP3 2 squared, correct? And then of course you have the to alpha 2 beta 2 by beta 1. Right? So now what happens is, if you look at these three terms, okay, let me just go back to this thing. These terms are generated due to alpha 2. Alpha 2 is giving these terms. So anyway, the amplitude should have come down. Okay. So you are talking about mixing between smaller amplitude terms, and therefore through beta 2, right, when they come, now what will happen is it will be even smaller. Okay. So you have alpha 2, which is a smaller term, beta 2, which is a smaller term, right? So this particular term is actually small, okay, compared to all the other terms, right? Because there is alpha 2 and beta 2, both of which are smaller quantities, smaller decimal numbers, okay, so less than 1. So therefore this particular term can be neglected, especially in the linear region. Okay, the contribution of this term is fairly less, and therefore approximately this can be written as 1 by aip3 1 squared plus alpha 1 squared divided by aip3 2 squared. All right, so can we see some kind of a pattern here? So here we can say, we can kind of generalize it and then say 1 by AIP3 or AIIP3 squared, I mean it holds good for OIP3 also, right, is approximately equal to 1 by AIP3 1 squared plus the gain of the first stage squared divided by AIP3 2 squared. Okay, you can generalize it and then say for, you know, 3 or more stages, you can just say approximately it is aip3 1 squared plus alpha 1 squared by aip3 2 squared plus alpha 1 squared beta 1 squared divided by aip3 3 squared, and so on. Okay, so this can be generalized to say aip3 total squared, or the cascaded thing, is something like this. In other words, to put it in simple English, it is going to be 1 by aip3 squared is going to be first stage nonlinearity plus second stage nonlinearity, which is multiplied by, or alpha 1 squared, the gain of the first stage divided by aip3 squared, and the gain of the preceding stages divided by the gain of the ip3 of the third stage, and so on. Okay, so you can obviously see here is the nonlinearity of the latter stages becomes more critical, because the nonlinearity of the final stages is, you know, the is getting multiplied by, scaled down by this factor. Okay, so in other words, see, if the ip3 number directly appears here, this ip3 number is divided by alpha 1 squared and beta 1 squared, right? So if this number is low, the third stage number is low, then effectively the ip3 of the third stage number will be divided by some amount, and it will be a very small ip3 number. So in other words, the overall nonlinearity worsens if your final stage nonlinearity is bad. In other words, we can just say nonlinearity of the latter stages is more critical. Okay, as long as, you know, if the gains are greater than 1. Okay, so that also makes sense, no? So if you have, you know, 3 amplifiers, just intuitively if you see, let's say this is a1, a2 and a3, okay, this is x of t, so this will cause some nonlinearity, and so there is some gain also, right? So this will be an amplified signal, let's say alpha 1 times x of t. Now after amplification it becomes beta 1 alpha times x of t. So now the signal amplitude here is very large. Okay, if you had a smaller amplitude, here it will be a little bigger. Now the input of the third amplifier is seeing a very large amplitude. So the non-linearity performance or the linearity performance of the last amplifier is even more critical, because you are looking at all gigantic tones which are sitting at its input. So obviously, by looking at it by common sense also, we will say that A3 has to be quite linear, and that is what we are seeing from the equations also. Okay, any doubts, any questions? Okay, I hope it is clear. So with this, probably we will conclude our discussion on linearity. There's something called as AM/PM conversion that I'll take tomorrow in the next class, and then we'll jump into noise. Okay. So basically, what we saw in today's class is to, kind of derive an expression for kind of come up with a metric to characterize amplifiers, right? And that metric is called as the third order intercept point, which is not a physically achievable point. It is basically gotten through extrapolation. And this, we derived some simple equations for that, and we saw that, how that characterizes, and then we derived this equation, which turns out to be very useful in many practical applications, where if you know IP3 and the input power, you can find out what is your relative IM. Okay. And then we saw what happens in cascaded stages. We derived this equation, and we saw that the non-linearity of the latter stages has to be better. Otherwise, you will end up in a lot of trouble. Okay. So with this, we'll conclude today's class. So thanks everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So please go through the book. Whatever I've taught is from Razavi's book only. You can please just read through the book. You will really have a good understanding.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks everyone.